Roman, how do you think the Apple presentation, the keynote went? What was your thoughts on that?
I was surprised, actually, that
Hmm.
they did manage to pack in some new content.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna jazz it up a bit with their PR moves.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the start with the Steve Jobs intro and Tim Cook coming to stage, and he is not a person to be awash in like fake emotions.
Hmm.
So I think you could see him really tear up a little bit, and the whole show started with a sincere emotion, and that I think was for me a big part where I noticed, okay, they have something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I agree. I mean, watching it's strange watching Tim Cook. He's such a different animal than Steve Jobs ever was, as far as presentation goes and how he expresses himself. Um, the thing I always loved about Steve Jobs the most was, well, actually, two things. Number one, you could tell that he really knew the products inside and out. He's not a coder and he didn't, make these things himself, but he knew the products inside and out. And number two, you had that childlike whimsy, or where he thought it was so cool. He just loved this stuff. Quite often during a presentation, he would say, "Isn't this cool?" He'd look and just go off script and say, "Isn't this cool?" And you could tell his exuberance, and everybody loved that about him. And I always just thought that was so great. And that's really lightning in a bottle. I don't know that you can catch that, even if it wasn't Tim Cook in charge now. I don't think you could ever recapture that again.
they would
Unfortunately.
all, yeah, they would all bring their own flavor. Tim Cook is a numbers guy, he's a logistics guy,
Yeah.
and that he does phenomenally well.
Hmm.
That he plays a huge part in Apple's success, in
I agree.
their just crazy numbers that they're pushing. And Johnny Ive was also in the ring to get the top position at Apple, and he would have brought another kind of flair. Like,
He did. Did you see the one? What was that? When Steve, it was in that smaller venue when Steve Jobs it was introducing the first unibody, and
oh
before
yeah,
before he got into unibody, Johnny Ive got up and was describing the traditional MacBook Pro before unibody came on. He did okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't. It didn't flow really well. Because he hadn't. I don't think to that point ever really been on stage and presented anything. But he did okay. But I think Tim Cook was the right choice, and he is really coming to his own. When Tim Cook first got up the first one or two keynotes, he was really
stiff a little
slow
bit. Yeah,
and
yeah,
talking. It's like, oh
yeah.
man, we just get it out, please say what you're going to say. Now he has a little bit more of a flow, but he still has that southern flair that he has to him. But he does well. I think he does well. And how about the theater itself? What did you think of it?
I think that would be just a dream come true to visit at least the theater, but also the main building. That has to be just, I think, in our century, one of the craziest buildings, most beautiful buildings, most thought out buildings. I think every nook and cranny has like a thought behind it, a process, a design,
It's very
lust,
Apple.
and some emotion. Yeah, I mean, I think John Gruber talked about the handrails to the stairs
Yeah,
leading down or up, for that matter.
yeah,
The top of it where your hand rests on, it's a rough surface, and
yeah,
then the part to the wall in which your fingers they travel up, right? That is smooth.
yeah.
Just that thought is crazy.
I
A,
agree. The attention to
a
detail.
spiraling elevator that turns.
Yeah, I
That's
just
just
want to
like,
ride in that. I just want to ride in that.
so I
um,
think we're gonna have more and more journalists kind of take apart the buildings once they get invited there,
mhm.
and then I think we'll see some more insights into thoughts and processes. There was an article way back, like months ago, maybe a year ago, in which they described the process of the one door hinge,
Mhm.
the handle. Do you read about that?
No.
Where Johnny Ive was in discussion with this one company that makes these, and
Mhm.
they were trying and trying and trying and spending Apple's money, spending Apple's money. I don't know, it goes into the tens of thousands for the design of one handle. Johnny Ive kept putting in his hand. Is like, nope, just too much of a bump, and that went on for months, months and months for one door handle.
It it's something to have pride in, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
Apple does that. I'm glad that they have the attention to detail. I'm also of the opinion lately that I wonder if sometimes anymore they're designing themselves into a box. Like the simplicity metaphor can go just so far before you start designing yourself out of any kind of real flair. Like, when they had their initial iMacs, they were colorful and bold and really went against the system. And that went away. That went with a lot of the products that they had. And now, not to jump ahead too far, but in this keynote, we saw that what did they call it? The Air Power, where you sit any inductive charging things onto it to like for Qi charging, so you can charge on there. It looks like a maxi pad. It looks like I'm like, it's just a white flat oval, and yeah, it's simple, and yeah, it works, but really, it just
Yeah.
doesn't look that good. And I hope they change that. I hope, because there's time and stuff, but they put it out there and they previewed it. It's like, okay, well, I really don't want that on my desk. It looks silly, I think.
Their their
So,
their their company culture is one of part of defiance
hmm
because everyone is saying iPad, that's awesome, MaxiPad, and they're just yeah, we think it's good, and that's what we voted, and
yeah,
take it or leave it. And it's the same with the MaxiPad, but it's another thing calling something an iPad, and the other thing making a MaxiPad the Qi charger that you're gonna put out there.
yeah. Right before the iPad came out, there was, do you remember the show Mad TV?
Yeah,
They actually did a skit on that.
yeah.
And yeah, it's called the iPad, so I won't go over it here. But oh man, yeah. But and you're right. They bucked the system, but and hey, it worked. And now everybody says iPad like it's just like they say iPhone. So
The perfect
anyway,
example. Yeah, I mean, what you mentioned, designing themselves into a box, is exactly what they did with the new MacBook, not the Mac Pro, and
yeah,
that's exactly almost what they said verbatim. It's
yeah.
like we designed ourselves into what did they say?
I don't remember exactly what they said.
Into a dead end or something.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Like,
because it wasn't user upgradable, which is what the
and
pros want. Like,
yeah, but
why
they
would
were
you do
counting
that?
on CPUs being more
That's
important
right.
than GPUs,
That's
and then
right.
GPUs took off.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
sometimes it happens. Good that it doesn't happen everywhere.
And now it is unfortunately forever known as the trash can Mac. And man, that is a
Yes.
distinction I'm sure that they all hate in Apple. It's got to be driving them
Yeah.
nuts. So once they got into the presentation, the Apple Watch, the Series 3 Apple Watch, what were your thoughts on that? What did you think about that presentation and what they presented?
I think it's a natural progression from the Series 2.
Hmm.
Um, it was an inevitable step, the
Hmm.
LTE,
Hmm.
because that will be the first LTE watch with an acceptable amount of battery life, but having LTE and being semi like not anonymous, separate from your other gadgets. If
Hmm.
you can use it as its own platform, it can install itself, install software itself, be self-contained. Like at some point the iPhone got. That's going
Yeah.
to be the first Apple Watch in my
Yeah.
mind,
I
and
have,
this is like a good step in that direction. Yeah.
yeah, I think the Apple Watch, and again, not to jump too far ahead, but it seems to me that everything that they're making right now, the MacBook Pro, the Apple Watch, and even the iPhone 10 that was announced, it's all looking towards the future.
Yeah.
USB-C only on MacBook Pro. That's great, but it's really towards the future. I think the Apple Watch. I really like the Apple Watch. I have the original here, which with, by the way, I think it's Watch OS 4 is on there now.
Yeah.
For what I use it for, it's fine. But really, if I get into anything, any operations, it definitely, you can feel the age on the original Apple Watch. Um, but I still like wearing it for notifications and everything. It's fine. It does what it does. And if I do upgrade, it'll probably be to the Series 2 because that has at least GPS, faster processor, and it works a bit faster. And quite honestly, the Series 3 Apple Watch for me, I don't know that I have a use case for it. I think anybody who exercises regularly, goes on runs, and doesn't want to have their iPhone flopping around in their pocket or their hoodie or whatever, perfect use case. And I've done that before. I run occasionally, and I use my watch for that. And a Series 2 would be good, but um, I don't know that I run regularly enough where I need to keep in touch that much. I don't know. I think it'd be good in an emergency maybe, but um, and the design itself, everybody seems to hate the little red dot on the
Yeah,
crown.
I thought, you know, this is I thought it served a purpose. Everyone thought that was going to be the LTE radio.
Hmm.
And then
Right,
I would have accepted that
but they put it in the glass.
because design has to have a functional purpose. I mean, that's it's crappy law because I mean you can design something just because it's funny or whatever. But Apple usually designs something where you're like, oh, that looks kind of new or strange. But they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, but this is how you're going to use it, and this is what it's for. That is for nothing. That's just for showing off.
yeah.
That's pretty much like the gold watch for 14,000 or whatever. That's like in that kind of, oh, it doesn't distinguish itself through a new exterior, so we put a red dot in there, and that's why people are going to buy it. Rich people, a lot of rich people, uh, and they're going to buy it not because of the LTE,
Hmm.
just because it has a red dot. I got the new one. Suck it. Why
uh,
is there a red dot? And then I mean, you can go as far to say as the Apple Watch is has become a fashion staple. They're not
sure.
making like hundreds of different bands in different colors, different textures, Milanese, wood, leather, all types of plastics for sport, etc. They're not making them just for people are actually matching clothes on their watch, not just with the iPhone, but also with your shoes. I mean, you know how women are.
Yeah,
That's really, really, and the red dot might just hinder some of the fashion choices or color choices you would make.
that's true. That's
That's
true.
like,
I mean, I'm not a fashion kind of guy. I mean, to a point, I am. I mean, I like black. I like thicker cuffs and so forth. Now they have the what is it? The Hermes cuff, the equivalent to this thing that costs $1,200. This what I got is a real leather band. It's lasted me since I first got the Apple Watch, and it cost me $40 on Amazon. It looks fine. I'm not there to show off. I just like the way it looks for me. You know, I don't really care about showing off. But as far as yeah, my wife has an original Apple Watch also, and she has the gold aluminum one. So it's like a couple, $200-300, and that pink stone band, and it matches her outfits and stuff, and she likes that, and that's great. It's not so important to her. But yeah, that red dot, I know Apple likes to do things where they have like differentiators between their products, so you can definitely see this is this and this is that. But that red dot was just a bad design choice. It's not that big of a deal. I really don't care. And honestly, how often you're going to look at the dot? I mean, I this one with the stainless steel is black on there, and that's fine. But I don't really care one way or another.
I'm just kind of scared because once a company starts designing something
Hmm.
without any rhyme or reason, there's no reason for that red dot.
Right. Other than
If
to
it did
say, here's
anything,
the
it's
cell
like,
one. Right.
okay, imagine you could the red part would be a mineral that you can see in the dark, like a radiative,
Right.
on a normal
Flashlight or
watch
something.
face.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's those green the green pointers.
Hmm.
Once they get loaded up by light, they
Hmm.
shine in the dark. That would be a function.
That's true.
Like if that's
Hmm.
like if it would like they found a cool mineral or a good chemical
Hmm.
that kind of reacts cool with like oxygen or yeah, that would be a function. I'd say, hey, that's pretty cool. That's a red dot and it does something. But this is a red dot. It's just like because they thought it looked good, or I don't. That's
Yeah.
I'm scared that they're gonna take that design philosophy and add it to other products that are near and dear to my heart and necessary for my work and my everyday computing.
Yeah. And we'll get into that a little bit more.
Yeah,
But yeah, Apple's
but
making me nervous right now with a lot of different things.
the Apple Watch with LTE,
Hmm.
people have been saying it doesn't work well. It can't connect for some people. Obviously, the battery life is going to be it's just for an emergency, right?
Well, have you heard about why the thing that Apple put out, the announcement, as far as why
Yeah.
it's not working properly?
Yeah, for some people they it connects to these Wi-Fi like hotspots that you have to
Right.
connect to on your own with the password, like from T-Mobile or whatever, like hotel Wi-Fi's and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And it drops the call and you can't get online, which is a problem. And as long as they fix that, that's fine. Hey, it's a first gen product as far as the LTE watch goes, so they'll work out those bugs, I'm
But
sure.
apart from the trivial red dot, there's actually nothing negative I seen here.
Mm-mm.
Um, Only positive because I love being engulfed in technology. I love everything I own,
Yeah.
but I also love not taking my phone for a walk in the woods or going out because that's a different feeling. It's definitely a feeling of needing something, and I don't like that feeling. So having the Apple Watch is a good step between being connected but being disconnected as well, which is
Yeah,
a good thing for
there's a
me.
real
Like,
argument there because there are those that say, "Man, how connected do I really need to be?" How, I leave my phone at home so I can go take a walk in the woods and not be contacted by anybody. But then there's that argument, which you just said, and I agree with that. It's like, well, I have a family, and if they need to get a hold of me while I'm out walking somewhere, if I'm going to go walk for an hour, yeah, I'd actually would prefer that they were able to get a hold of me.
yeah,
Um, I don't know that it's worth $10 a month.
yeah,
It's going to cost.
yeah.
So I just take my phone with me anyway. I always have my phone anyway with me,
Because it's not
but
more data you're using.
right.
It's
It's
not.
you're taking out of the existing. It really shouldn't cost you anymore. I think that's a bad move that has nothing to do with Apple. I don't think they could do anything about that. That's the company. So
Some
that's
companies might create a nice profile for themselves and say, "Here's your plan," and it doesn't cost anything.
right.
Maybe that's going to be possible in the future. Everything's possible in the future. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to wait and see for that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on the Apple Watch? I guess that's it for the moment.
I think that'll come in some future shows once
The design
someone
itself,
smart.
I like. I mean, it's a little bit thicker, but not
Yeah,
much. Like
yeah.
and
I think that's about as thick. That's again future proofing.
mhm.
This is like a red line that goes through Apple's product line right now. The going far away, Mac OS High Sierra, you don't see it directly except from
Mm,
the wallpaper,
yeah.
but it sets a groundstone for the future proofing the system
Mhm.
with a new Apple file system and not the 1983 file system they had
As,
before.
as long as you don't have a Fusion drive.
Yeah, yeah.
I
There's
heard
a
that, and see, I was having trouble as a professional photographer. I use certain software, and that software, it's been crashing. I've been getting kernel panics on my Mac behind me here, and couldn't figure out what the problem was. And so I thought, you know what? Let me see if upgrading to the Mac OS beta, which I've had on my laptop uh, for a while, and that's been working great. So I upgraded my iMac to it, and it didn't help the crashes, but it didn't mess it up either. But it's still in beta. I haven't upgraded it to the final one because they're saying it could screw you up.
yeah.
So, but Apple did acknowledge it the other day, and they said in the future they're going to release a software where it will work with Fusion drives, which is fine.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
and
Okay.
well, I looked into what it takes to upgrade a Fusion iMac to an SSD, and it's ridiculous how difficult it is. And I'm not scared to open up my Mac and do what I need to do, but it's so involved to go in and dig out the SSD behind where it is, and you have to
Oh
basically
yeah.
take the whole thing apart. It's crazy. But anyway, the iPhone 8.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
And the iPhone X. That's right, I said it.
I'm going to say it right now. The iPhone, yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. The iPhone X. I'm going to call it the X because I always called OS 10 OS X for years, and it's an X. And I think Apple kind of wants it that way, actually.
I
Um,
say both.
yeah,
But
but the OS 10, or I mean, I think that the iPhone 10, the iPhone X, is blinding people from how great the iPhone 8 is. I really, really, really do. If you look at the iPhone 8, have one here. You have one too, right? The space gray.
yeah, of course.
As far as the design goes itself, I love the design. It's a classic design. Yes, it's a little old. There you go. It's a little old from 2014,
Yeah.
the iPhone, and I think it's still a good design. It's that design perfected. I actually like the way it feels in the hand. It's a little bit heavier. It's got the aluminum rails on the side, the glass back with
Hmm.
for inductive charging. It doesn't get those micro abrasions like Jet Black did. I had a Jet Black 7 Plus before this. Um,
Did you
but
have it in a
anyway,
case?
what's that?
Did you have it in a case? The jet
I
black?
did most of the time, yeah.
Mm.
But it would get like little bits of grime in there, and my son has it now. The reason that I upgraded from an iPhone 7 Plus to the iPhone 8 is because I knew that I didn't want the iPhone 10
Yeah.
yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that is, talk about a first gen product. There's so much
Mm.
first gen about that. First OLED, first Face ID.
Mm.
There's a lot that's going into that I I don't know. I'm shying away from that, and I think it's blinding people to the iPhone 8. I mean, the iPhone 8, we got and I'm not going to go over a huge list of exhaustive specs, but you have the A11 Bionic chip, the
Yeah,
first
we're gonna get.
GP.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
get into that.
yeah,
That is
the first
design
GPU made by
wise.
Apple. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Design wise.
Design wise, I think it has enough. If if Samsung wouldn't make such good screens by now, right?
Yeah.
In the S8 and the Note,
Hmm.
you know, I could like ignore this old kind of stale,
Yeah.
um and there's just so much missing space. But I think design wise they changed enough with the back,
Hmm.
big, out of the hardest Corning glass they've ever made,
Which still cracks.
obviously.
It's still glass, but it's
Yeah,
still
but it
sturdy.
takes it takes a bit. I've seen some videos.
Hold your phone up to the screen real quick. The back of your phone,
Oh wow.
and
There you go.
look at the difference there. You see a main difference?
Yep. That's the European Union.
Yeah. So, and we just have
Yeah, your
just the
looks
iPhone
badass.
here.
That's what Apple always wanted to make.
Yeah,
Yeah, not yet in the European Union, not yet.
and that's okay. But
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, they made a design change with the 7, and then, and I think, I mean, the internals are way enough to call it one step.
Yeah, I mean, if the iPhone 10 didn't exist, this would be a
Yeah, yeah,
killer iPhone
yeah,
7S.
yeah.
And even if they just called it the iPhone, I mean, it is a great phone.
It's
And
almost to the extent that I'm happy that I don't have to get the iPhone 10. What if,
totally.
what if the iPhone X, iPhone 10 were the only phone that they presented, and they would hype it up a bit, and it like maybe would be a little bit better, or like I don't know, whatever. I'd have to get that because I need a new iPhone. I don't want. I mean, maybe I'd get an iPhone 7s,
Yeah.
maybe
Hmm.
new. But then I'm also like, okay, I'm paying pretty much 900 whatever dollars
Yeah.
instead of $1,000. Do I get the new stuff? I mean, I got, yeah, and that's a question. I'm coming up from a iPhone 6, which hasn't aged well.
That's a good upgrade though, from that to the 8.
Um, it is not a beautiful old Leica camera. It's especially with the new iOS 11, it's starting to show its age drastically. The battery like just it died really quick, and it gave out at 30%. If you're doing anything more than writing an email, it just goes out and restarts.
Yeah.
Or it just shows you, oh, it wasn't 30%, it was 1%.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm.
As a main phone computing device, that I mean, we're all attached to our phones. This is lifesaver. This is whatever.
Yeah.
Time saver, lifesaver. I needed to get a new one. And so, yeah, the update was a no-brainer for me. I wanted a bigger screen, a better camera, like faster phone, and that's everything the iPhone 8 Plus gave me.
Oh, and you went to from not a 6 Plus, but a 6 to an 8 Plus.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah,
6, not
that's a
6.
killer upgrade. That's a perfect
That
upgrade.
yeah.
You're the use case for exactly
Yeah.
who should be upgrading to it. I was questionable because I thought, well, I know I'm not going to get the 10. I know I'm not. I'm going to wait at least a year until that first gen product bugs are worked out, till the screen is better, till the that stupid notch is less. Hopefully it's less. Till Face ID, which I want to talk about in a little bit,
Yeah.
is better. So I knew I wasn't going to get that. So I thought to myself, well, do I want an 8 to go through this year, or do I want to keep my 7 Plus for yet another year? And
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'd rather have the latest and greatest. And really, yeah, spec wise, it is the only differences. Let's go through the only differences. The only difference between the 8 Plus and the X, or the 10, right, is the design, um, the additional stabilization on the camera, on the
Yeah.
extra camera, the Animoji, which very, very cool technology.
Yeah.
The implementation of it is completely gimmicky, and yeah, very cool, very fun. 5-10 minutes. If I'm not my son or daughter's, it's I'm not going to use it. Um, the front facing
Front
12
facing.
front yeah 12 megapixel camera. Then again, I don't take a lot of selfies. It might, I use the back camera all the time, which I love,
The
and
thing
it
is,
is.
but that is actually huge for people who vlog, or
Yeah, that's
like
true.
if I want to record something for the channel, I don't have to use the back and hope the shot is good. Just take it like this, just like you would take like a Canon or a Sony and flip it on, like
Yeah,
slip it, like flip over the selfie monitor. I think that's a big step for a lot of people with that use case.
that's true. That is a big one. And then you got your Face ID along with the camera system that goes along with making Face ID work. But that's it. So design, additional stabilization, Animoji, front-facing 12 megapixel camera was really the only major differentiator, and then Face ID, which
Well,
I don't think is ready yet. I don't think it's ready
I
yet.
don't think that as well, but it remains to be seen. But well, with design also comes a new screen.
Well, absolutely,
So
the OLED, yeah, it is beautiful.
I would have been more on the fence if the screen had been bigger, because it's not that big. Like we can see schematics, it's marginally bigger than the 8.
As far as usable space goes.
Usable space.
Right, yeah. And that's the real thing, because developers are freaking out trying to figure out how in the world to implement their apps with this.
And
Um,
these ears are pretty much totally wasted. They are only like areas, function areas to pull down from,
or to show time, or
or to
signal
show
strength and
time.
so
Yeah,
forth. But other than
exactly.
that, you're right. It looks great, but functionality wise, it's like, well, I just don't understand the
And you
design
have
choice.
the control lip at the bottom.
Yeah.
That also takes like a couple of millimeters,
Yep.
I don't know, an eighth of an inch or whatever you guys have. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you're gonna have to. They don't want you to program anything in that space. That
Yeah.
takes a little bit off the bottom again, a little bit off the top, a little bit off the bottom,
Yeah.
and then when you turn it into landscape, oh, that's a whole another mess. It really
That's
depends on how the software engineers are going to handle and take care of the notch.
that's the other reason I didn't want the 10, aside from the design and the technology in it. It was the operating system really, really bugged me, because now you have the iPad with OS 11 on there, which it works differently than the iPhone. Close enough, but
Mhm.
it works differently. Then you have the iPhone 8, which works traditionally how we've been using our iPhone, and then you have the iPhone 10 that it's a complete different paradigm. I love swiping up from the bottom, and then I get control center. I mean, that's, it's brilliant. It's right there. I use it all the time, and now I have to reach up to the top and pull it down every time. That's a real inconvenience, and it's just a bad choice. They should at least, what they should have done, I think, is, and they said they're going to bring back. People complained where you used to be able to get that, uh, to 3D touch the side, to 3D touch the side to bring in the app switcher there. And they took that
Mhm.
away. You can still double click it and then do that. They said they're going to bring that back. What I think they should do is, so you can 3D touch the side and bring over your control center rather than pulling down
Mhm.
from the top. That would be great. Just
That
pull right
looks good.
over.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's right there. I think that's a bad choice. And it remains to be seen. And not only that, but then you have the weight that's going on. People aren't going to be able to get their hands on this for so long.
Mhm.
I mean, now they're saying 2018 for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people. I mean, they're making. I think I heard something about 300,000
Yeah,
per month
yeah.
or per week. I don't know which one it was, but
I
it's not
think
a lot.
month. I think
I
month.
think a
Yeah.
month. Yeah, it's not a lot.
No,
That's really
for
not a
Apple,
lot.
it's nothing. It's so
And the
little.
aspect ratio, it's a weird resolution, and it's
Hmm.
just too. The thing is, it is a little bit from the physicality. It is a little bit wider than the 8, a
Hmm.
bit wider, but the
Yeah.
points of screen are the same.
Yeah.
So your usable space is the same. It's a little bit wider, not much, but way longer. So
Yeah.
it's like a mutation, kind of like the iPhone 5 was, that just gained one icon bar
Hmm.
on the screen. It's just
Yeah.
like they pulled it up, and that's what they're doing with this as well. So movies are going to be cropped weird. All your content is going to be kind of weird.
And you either have it pulled in with a black bar, which is fine. They should have done that by default, or you have
Yeah,
a notch that goes into your video. That is
yeah, yeah.
such a bad decision. It's not like the end of the world. Yes, it's all this,
No,
privilege stuff and everything, but it's like, look, if I'm paying, and let's be honest, everybody says, oh well, it's $1,000. No, it's not $1,000. It's $1,150 because nobody's going to get the 64 gig. Most people aren't.
yeah,
So let's be real here. And
yeah,
you're getting glass front and glass back. Just like this phone, I got the Apple Care on this. It's the
yeah.
first time I ever bought Apple Care. So I thought I got a glass back on this, and I'm glad I did because I'm going on a little tangent here, but I just saw an article where the cost of
Yeah.
replacing the back of these is astronomical, even with Apple Care. With Apple Care, I think it's like $220. Without, it's like $350.
That's almost a new iPhone,
Yeah, because
like the iPhone SE.
the inductive charging is worked into the glass back. So if you break the glass back, it's a whole replacement of not just the
The irony
glass.
is,
Oh, what's that?
and the sad irony is, I don't need the inductive charging really because it doesn't offer me much of a gain.
I
Because the thing
agree.
is, if I lay it on the table, I can't use it, so I can't charge and use it,
Well, there is a
and
use
it
case
has to.
for it. I'll argue against it because I have mine coming today. I found a $20. I
Ah,
spent a $20 one on Amazon. There's this one from Samsung. It's sort of a leatherette disc, and you lay it
that's
down on
cool.
there, and it also goes up. So it's sort of like it's
Oh,
sort
that's
of
cool.
it can
Okay,
it's sort of like this. This is just a whatchamacallit that I put my phone in and it kind of keeps it up so you can put it up so you can see it. You can put it sideways and watch a movie with it, and it's still
that makes sense.
charging and it goes
Yeah,
down. That one though is about 80 $90 on Amazon. The one I'm getting is just a flat square that I'll put on a shelf at night by my bed, and
right.
it'll
That's yeah,
that's perfect. That's all I need it for. But if that does work out and I like the inductive charging, I am going to get that Samsung one where it folds up and you can kind of put the phone on there. That I like that for. I think it's a cool technology. And
yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
and the best part about it is it may not be perfect now, but Apple is Apple. And when they adopt something and they put it out there to the masses, now that inductive charging probably in a year or two is going to be a lot faster than it ever used to be. So I'm glad they adopted that.
like the car is a good use case. If you
Yeah.
have just one area where the car maker has, like, I don't know, like the armrest or something like that for your iPhone, which is
Hmm.
already like coming out of the factory like that. Just put your iPhone, there's basically throw it in there. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to have like back to back contact
Hmm.
because it's not wireless. The wire is just somewhere else.
However, there are wireless inductive chargers out there. I just found one. It's by who's it by? It's called the Stone Chi, which is a weird pronounce. It's
Right.
Stone,
Yeah.
and it's actually a really it's about as big as
Yeah.
a palm pre, the
Oh,
old
yeah,
palm
yeah,
pre. It
yeah,
looks
exactly.
just like
Yeah.
that. It's shaped like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
it looks like a stone. Has a cool texture. You put it on there, and it beeps. I'll put it in the show notes here. And it beeps on there, and it also has USB in the back, so you can charge it up. But it's a totally portable cordless one. Now, yeah, you
Yeah.
do have to charge it, and yeah, you can keep it plugged in there. But when you want to take it with you, I think it's a 4,000 milliamp hour.
Yeah.
So it gives you some good charge. That is totally wireless
It's
and really
basically a
cool.
power bank,
Yeah,
but with like wireless charging where you can lay your, yeah, that is cool.
yeah,
And
I
stuff
really
like
like
that
that
is
one.
just going to emerge and really give us a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I agree. Um, So yeah, the iPhone 10. I honestly think that it's blinding people to how great the
Yeah.
iPhone 8 is. I'm super glad that I upgraded to this. I do like the feel of it. It is more design wise. It is more grippy, even than the jet black.
Yeah.
It
Even more
feels
than
good
the
in the
jet
hand.
black.
Yeah, yeah. Just a little bit more. I don't know why, but something about it. It doesn't scuff as easily. Um, but yeah, I love the design of it. Some people said that they don't like the space black or space gray or whatever it is, but I think it looks really nice. But
I was always a space gray kind of guy, and I
mhm,
think jet black would have been my color. Um,
mhm.
but I I really didn't like rose gold because it was too pinky, and
Yeah,
the normal gold was a little bit too gaudy.
uh,
But I think the new, what is it, blushed gold?
I think it's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. It's so classy.
Yeah,
It
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 really
doesn't
is.
look it's a
That's a good word
gold
for it. Classy. That's a great word
classy.
for
It
it.
doesn't
Yeah,
look pretentious, timeless, kind of like,
it does have a
well, the
timeless feel
70s
to it.
aren't timeless, but it's like, yeah, it's classy. It's not pretentious.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely the white, the off white is
Yeah,
perfect. The hue is just perfect.
yeah, and I mean, and to me, it reads as a very feminine phone,
Yeah,
very feminine. And if,
in a
but if
positive sense, in a
in a
very
very
positive sense.
positive sense, yeah. I mean, a guy could have that, no problem. I mean, I know
Yeah,
guys
no
that have
problem.
pink phones, that's great.
Yeah,
But yeah, I love the look of the new gold, and again, it's that two tone thing where you have the white or off white on the back and then gold on the sides and around the camera, and that's again what I like about the iPhone, the space gray too. It's that two tone kind of black. I like that.
hmm
But yeah, no, the gold looks fantastic. The silver, I mean, it's fine. Get that
yeah.
milky white on the back. It's silver.
It's just a little bit more blue
Yeah, I agree.
than the off white. Yeah,
Give me just so yeah. Again, I'm happy with my purchase of it. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the iPhone 10. I do want to try. It's going to be like winning the lottery. I'm going to try to get. We're each going to try to get one if we can. The night that they're available, I think October 27th, it goes on sale. So my time is 3 in the morning. So
oh
what
yeah.
so what would that be for you
Wait a
in
second.
Germany?
10, that's like night, like evening.
You're so lucky. Oh, but
No,
you
no,
can't
wait,
buy it
wait,
there,
wait,
can
wait,
you?
wait.
Or can you
No,
buy
no,
it
no.
there?
Wait, 7 p.m. for me is 10 a.m. for you. So
Uh-huh.
that's gonna be like mid or like afternoon, early
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
afternoon, something like that. Yeah.
So is it available in Germany? Can you order it from there?
Yeah,
Day
it's the
one?
same date, I think.
Okay.
October, what is it?
27th, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pretty sure.
That's what they say in Germany as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to try to get each try to get one, even if we just get one between us just to review and to hold because it is, certainly worth looking at.
I'll
Um,
get to see one eventually, even if like if I don't rent one or just
yeah.
buy it and sell it.
Yeah.
I'll get to see one in the store at late, and I'll take my time with it as well.
And this may be one of those things where I've never been one to buy things first off and then sell it on eBay, but this might be one of those things we might actually want to do that if it's really in short supply, you could
Yeah,
probably get double of what you bought it
yeah,
for on
yeah.
eBay. But it is a gorgeous phone. There's no denying that it's beautiful. Although I really I question the design, the not the aesthetic, but the practical design of steel on the sides, because my Apple Watch, as much as I like it, the face is sapphire. It doesn't have one scratch on it, not one, not a micro abrasion, nothing. This is sapphire, and it does a great job. I mean, and I'm pretty rough on my watch. The steel is scratched to all hell. I mean, it's scratched like crazy. It doesn't look horrible. It's steel. It's what it looks like. But the size of rails of those of the iPhone 10, it is going to be scratched like crazy. Um,
Mhm.
so and that's within the first day. People are going to start having scratches, and then you're going to have another scratch gate or whatever. People freaking out that their new piece, the new $1,000 or $1,200 uh, iPhone 10
Wait
is
for FaceGate.
yeah, face gate. Well, that's I
That
want
is
to talk about.
coming. That is gonna be
Yeah,
sure thing. That's a sure bet.
and you saw that there. So let's get into Face ID. There's one other thing I want to talk about with the design, but let's get into Face ID. Um, Bottom line is when you see the people at the Steve Jobs event, particularly, and I'll see if I can put the video in there, the one that iJustine did, right?
Yeah.
And so each person had about 5 minutes with the phone, each YouTuber, and they had an Apple employee standing over their shoulder, and then they were able to hold the phone and so forth and show off a few things. And one of the things they showed off was Face ID. Right now, with Touch ID, anybody who has an iPhone knows, even before you pull it out of your pocket, you put your hand in your pocket, your thumb's on your phone, and it's open when you're already looking at it. Or when you're going to Apple Pay at a place, you take your phone out, your thumb's already on the printer, and you just double click it, and it's there, it's done. That's a one, maybe two-step process that takes about a half a second. Really, it's about a half a second. And when you watch that video with iJustine, or Justine Ezerick, I don't know what she wants to be called nowadays, but iJustine, she says, "Oh yeah, well let's hold it up to the person's face. He has this train on their face." She holds it up. One, it takes a second, almost a full second to unlock. Now it's unlocked. Then you have to
And then
swipe
you have to
up
swipe up. Yeah.
every single time. It's a three-step process, and it's crazy. And I don't understand. And I'm hoping that by the time they release that it's a lot faster. But I don't know if it's going to be or not. I really don't know if it's going to be, because right now it's hold up, unlock, swipe up every time, and that would drive it's. And we're just
Problem
talking a
is,
second here, but I don't know.
it's not even better than Touch ID 1,
No, no, you're right.
basically.
Yeah, I totally
Basically.
agree. And
It can, I mean, if they just let off from the swiping up motion,
hmm
just hold it up because you have the raise to wake.
hmm
And then with Touch ID, you take, that's even faster. You raise to wake and you just put your finger on this place and it's up in
but
half a
again, from
second.
your pocket, it's already open. All you need is your
Yeah.
thumb. And so that's a huge problem. And honestly,
But
I I think every product. I'm sorry. I think every product
no,
that
no.
they make, they have a roadmap of upgrades also.
Yeah.
And I really think that they're saying, well, yeah, we could make it faster, but then what are we going to upgrade to on iPhone 10.2 or whatever, X2? So let's slow it up just like we did for Touch ID in the beginning. Bad choice, because now, because the problem was with Touch ID, we didn't have anything to compare it to other than slide to unlock. There was nothing to compare it to, or at worst, you're comparing it to putting in your password, which is way
Mm-hmm.
slower. So Touch ID was, even the first one was way far ahead of what we had.
Mm-hmm.
What we have now with Touch ID is so lightning fast that compared to Face ID, it's going to feel like molasses. And plus, how many times you look at your phone? 90 times, 150 times a day, and every time raise, look, swipe up. That's crazy. It's crazy.
That was okay. I don't want to lose this one thought. Fact is that they were trying to get Touch ID under the screen, and they didn't make it in time.
That's what I
So
heard.
they
Right.
reverted to
Yeah.
Plan B, pretty much.
Right.
Maybe they wanted to mix them both, which
hmm
would have been a really successful amalgamation of two different, of like one really ripe, really good technology in the Touch ID under the screen,
hmm
and the new one with Face ID 1,
Yeah.
right? And I was wondering what the angle is going to be, because they said, well, it will also recognize your face at a weird angle. So when it's lying on the table and I look at it, that's going to see me looking at it, and then I can just swipe up and it works. You have to hold it up,
Right.
pretty much. It's
And
not going to work.
in
Like,
their words,
is
it
it going
needs
to
your
work
attention.
here? Is
Yeah.
it going to work like this? If I
No,
look at it, is that going to, like,
I don't
what
think
is
so.
the angle
Right.
of these flood illuminator things?
Right.
That's the question I had, and it didn't really answer it because everyone's going like this. And if
Yeah.
that's the 90-degree angle you need, that's kind of cumbersome.
And so to answer your first question, I think it was Craig Federighi, because he was making the rounds after that flub, the first flub, which it actually it wasn't an error. iPhone was doing its job. It's well
Yeah,
documented.
yeah.
Other people were looking at it, so it was actually doing its job. So it was a demo fail, but not an
Technology
iPhone
fail,
fail, not a technology
product
fail,
fail.
right?
Yeah,
So when he was making his rounds, he did address. I think he hinted, at least, if not directly said, that eventually in another generation they were going to have both, which I think that would be great. If they had both, that's fine. I think that's brilliant. You should have both, one or the other, and that's fine. Whatever works fastest. Bottom line
like
is,
if
when you
your
pick up
hand
your
is
phone,
wet. right?
Right.
We have the Touch ID problem with the wet hand, or
Yep.
dude, the weirdest thing. I started longboarding, right? With the skateboard, the
Yeah.
longboard.
Yeah.
Started doing that, and it has the grip tape on the top. This is so trivial and random, but like if you just touch this grip tape, which is like
Mm.
sandpaper, really coarse,
Yeah.
thick sandpaper. If you just touch it with your finger cup, Touch ID is not going to work for about 2-3 days with that thumb.
Wow.
So I'm
Wow.
not even like rubbing on it.
Yeah.
I'm really just taking my skateboard and holding it. I'm just touching that layer of grip tape. This thumb isn't usable for Touch ID for a couple of days.
Wow. Interesting.
Just because it's micro abrasions, uh, just some skin that's roughed up on the surface. That's how complicated Touch ID is.
And
And so
that's
having both is perfect.
yeah, I agree. And that's actually interesting now that you mention it because my family for some reason now I'm the archetype for Apple products. The AirPods fit, the EarPods fit, the Touch ID works, the telephone, everything's it's just whatever. Everything has always worked for me. My family on the other hand, Touch ID for my son, one of my daughters and my wife works maybe 50% of the time.
Wow.
Maybe. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the amount of sweat on the skin or something. I
Mm.
have no idea. But for whatever
Oils.
reason, yeah,
Yeah.
it hardly works for them. And my son saw me setting up my new phone, and he was standing over my shoulder while I set up Touch ID, and I was just going blip, 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 blip. And he said, "Is that how fast that's supposed to work?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, that doesn't work for me." And I don't know what it is. So for them, having both options would be perfect. But again, they need to speed it up. They need to speed it up. If it's not sped up, it's a fail out of the gate. And again, $1,150 plus Apple Care brings you over $1,400, which is just north of a brand new entry level MacBook Pro.
But
Actually,
why would you
two,
get the MacBook Pro if the iPhone X is
yeah,
faster
right,
than that?
right. But it's actually now the MacBook Pro 13-inch without Touch Bar, the entry level is $1,200, the same as the MacBook. The
Yeah.
MacBook Pro with Touch Bar is, I think, $1,400 now. Actually, it might be $1,700.
So
Anyway, buying an
you were
iPhone
talking
10.
about the iPhone 10.
Yeah,
We're, and you noticed how quickly we switched from the 10 to the 8, as we were saying that the 10
right.
is overshadowing
Yeah,
the 8. If just take the 10 out of the equation, we have a gain in CPU speed that we rarely see, I
hmm
think.
hmm
Because the architecture is a little bit different now.
yeah.
It's the A11 Bionic chip. It's
Six,
through and through 64-bit, obviously,
6 cores,
and it has It has
four
two
high
high
efficiency.
performance cores that
Yep.
do like the grunt work.
Uh-huh.
They are only 25% faster than the A10 from the
hmm
7, but
Right.
they have these four high efficiency cores, and
70%.
they are up to 70% faster than the
Amazing.
energy efficient cores in the A10.
Yep.
And the thing is, the main difference is in the A11 chip, all these chips can work together if needed,
Right. Yeah.
and
Along with
not
the
and
GPU.
the A10 they can't.
hmm
That is the difference. Like for one single task, for one
Yeah, and
single taxing task. Yeah,
it's huge. That is, I think, operationally, internally, one of the biggest leaps that we've ever had in an S series.
yeah.
The only, I mean, and it's
When smartphones, pretty much. I mean, it is the
yeah,
fastest smartphone by the newest Note, the Note 8. No, I
yeah,
mean we are talking about specs and Geekbench,
yeah.
but
What
it's
is
not
it's over
nothing.
10,000, right? It's faster than a
Yeah,
MacBook Pro and
yeah,
Geekbench, which is insane. And it
yeah.
only comes into play, yeah, with augmented reality, 3D games, but it is also future proof.
And it's
And
good to know that's not the bottleneck.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I was just watching a video yesterday. It was a really interesting video, and it was on uh, the differences, everything great and bad about the Android operating system and the iOS operating system. There's all the good and all the bad. And actually, he did quick little interviews. I guess there were submitted videos by a lot of other YouTubers that you would have recognized. I'm like, oh, I know him, I know him. And they were saying, here's what I like best about Android. Here's what I like least. Here's what I like best about iOS, and what I like least. And the overriding factor of what they like best about the operating system in an iPhone was, like you said, there's no bottleneck. And it just works like that. It's very fluid and it's consistent and it stays speedy and fast. Whereas Android, the one guy said he had to reset his Android every 2 or 3 months. He had to like rejigger the whole thing because it lags so much, and that was even with the S8. Which, by the way, I every time I look at the S8, all I think is, man, Apple should have made that. Apple should have made design wise. That should have been the iPhone 10
Yeah.
easily, easily. That's such a better design aesthetically looking than the iPhone 10. It's not even funny. But anyway, yeah, the operating system. I mean, yeah, it's stale, it's boring, but it works. It's solid.
And it got a whole lot better with iOS 11 now. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
um, and well, the problem with Android, one other problem, is that the how am I going to phrase this? So the development of really high-end technology is not going to come through Android. High-tech technology being produced for the mass market for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Because most Android phones are like mid to low tier phones. That is the mass market. The
Right.
mass market is not the S8s and the Note 8s. That is not like the mass market that Apple has with
Yeah.
the iPhones. So you're gonna have a lot of pretty good programs and technologies coming into Android, but like no developer is going to invest a lot of money and work into a platform like the S8, which not as many people buy,
Hmm.
and which is going to be obsolete again concerning software updates and security updates.
Yeah. I mean, Samsung and a lot of other manufacturers have pulled way ahead of Apple hardware wise, way ahead of Apple. And Apple continues to pull ahead and innovate software wise. Not innovate, but it's a more stable system. It's more desirable. And for, yeah, no, Apple doesn't get the whole, they don't get a pass anymore with that. It just works because their stuff
Mm,
doesn't just work all the time. I
yeah.
get that. However, you don't have viruses on the iPhone. It's just stable. It's a good old reliable operating system. Now, I know there should be a middle ground there because one of the things that the people in that same video said that they loved was the customizability about Android. Now, I'm older. I'm 47 right now. So I really don't care. I used to tinker with my Mac all the time and do all these different things. And then it's like, yeah, as long as it's working and it gets me through my day, that's fine. But I know people like to customize their stuff, and there's really no reason other than a design choice that Apple doesn't allow people to customize their iPhones as much.
For
And
me, it's such
they
a
should.
small thing. Yeah, I mean, customizing the things. The phone is something that I don't want to have to load up and work on a lot to make it work for me. I just want to use it and have it as simple as possible to everything that I need, my contacts, whatever. And the only thing that I would customize are like design things. Like, for example, the names under the apps.
Yeah,
That can go in my eyes.
like it does in the dock now.
Yeah, like
They're
in the
going in the
dock.
dock. Yeah,
And in iOS 10, there used to be this glitch where you could do some movements and then slide up, and then this whole page was gone. Like the names were gone,
yeah,
and you could do it for that, and then that was pretty funny. But they took that one out, and it just looks cleaner. But it's no biggie. Like I wouldn't want an open platform with viruses and pirates and Russians and Ukraine people. Like criminals just having free flow, like copying eBay apps, and then I don't want to have an antivirus on my phone, and I don't want to have to
ridiculous.
like prove that the eBay, I just like, oh fuck, I need, sorry for the swearing, I need eBay real quick, like the app, okay, gotta download it. I don't want to have to check if that's
I know.
some Ukrainian crook who wants to take my money. Like you're gonna have to say, okay, eBay, is that it? You're gonna have to match the
Yeah,
URL, and then I'll look for the eBay, and then
yeah,
it's just a, there is space in this world for that kind of world, and I like that this world exists, because out of that comes other type of technology and some other, I don't know, some other philosophical standpoints.
if the price of
But I just don't
entry,
want to use it.
I agree. If the price of entry for keeping safe and without virus is using a sandbox system like iOS, I'll pay that price every day of the week. I don't want the
Yeah.
inconvenience. I don't want the fraud problems or whatever. And by the way, you just moved up to a plus, right, for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to give you a practical operations tip that you can implement today on your iPhone that will help you out with one-handed use on your iPhone. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
It took me a while to figure this out, but I'm like, there's got to be a way to customize because it drove me nuts having that to do that, that stretch. Because if you don't have bigger hands,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't. You have to do that stretch. My hands
Yeah.
are right where they need to be, so I can stretch up there, but that far corner, forget it. So the
Yeah.
way I overcame that is this. So it's a twofold thing. So I made some folders. Can you see those folders? Okay.
Oh, that
So
is cool.
so you can
Yeah.
make folders. So first of all my main things, you can put as many things as you want in those folders, but I have four different folders with my main things in there. I have four different categories. So I have my social on that side, right? And I have my communications, Safari and iPhone and so forth, and texting. I have my weather and notes and things like that there. And on the fourth one, I have all Apple products and things like that. So those are the main things that I identified the main apps that I use, right? And I put them in folders in the bottom. So that's what I have. So, and you'll notice that when you tap those folders and you're ready to use an app, the farthest that they go is right in the middle, right? Right in the
Ah.
middle. And in addition, aesthetically, what that gives you is you have whatever picture there. It's not covered by icons. It's just whatever picture you want. It's all there.
Mm.
Now, the last part of this is the apps that I use but don't always use, but I sequester on a second page. And they're just there when I want, but I rarely use them. Most of the
Yeah.
time, I'm on this page, everything's down the bottom. I see the picture, and when I want to use something, I'm not stretching up to the top. It's just in the middle. I highly recommend doing that.
That
That
is a
that
really good tip.
it really when I went to the plus because it drove me nuts, and now I never reach to the top. I'm never reaching the top. When I do, I'm using one of those other apps. I'll just use my left hand once and I'll tap it or whatever. But for the most part, I'm using my thumb for all that, and that has saved. Oh man, it saves a lot of aggravation.
That's cool.
So, what are your thoughts on now? I came from a 7 Plus, amazing camera on the 7 Plus,
Yeah.
excellent camera. So
Yeah.
it was even still going from the 7 Plus to an 8 Plus. It was a bump up in camera. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's not a huge one, but big enough where it's like, wow, this is really really great for you. Coming
Oh
from
man.
the 6 camera to an 8 Plus camera, that's got to be like a whole new world opens up for you.
I don't want to shit on the 6 too much because it was a way bigger screen than the iPhone 5.
Yeah,
And I went 3GS 4, 5, 6. And the 6 was awesome. It was so much faster. The camera was so much better than the 5.
yeah.
The screen was so much bigger, better. And this is a step up from that because now I have a 12 megapixel camera, the telephoto lens stabilized, 4K 60 FPS.
Mhm.
There's DSLRs that can't do that. That costs I don't know how much.
I know, $3,000. I have one. I have
And
two.
you
I have
have
two. And
yeah,
it can't
and
and
the
it can't
crazy
do
thing
that.
is
Yeah.
like Apple, I mean, yeah, they could have I mean, megapixels, plegapixels, whatever. Apple
Megapixels is what I hear.
yeah, megapixels, yeah, exactly. This M11 motion coprocessor, it
Mhm,
gets so much out of these 12 megapixels.
mhm.
You're gonna get a lot of quality. And the only thing, I mean, I was thinking about getting a Canon DSLR, a ADD.
Can't help you. I'm a Nikon guy.
Ah, okay, okay. So, Canon is famous for the autofocus in video. Very
Right.
smooth, very reliable, great face tracking feature with the pixel floating, whatever they call it. And so this, when I'm coming to talking about my new channel or our channel, what we're doing on YouTube, I would like to film a little bit more, like
Mhm.
whatever it is. So either I buy a DSLR or I use this on my normal tripod, right?
I would use that
And
before DSLR,
yeah, and
honestly.
the only thing I wish it had is the portrait modus like the bokeh effect in video,
Hmm.
like the depth effect in video. That would be, I wouldn't, yeah, I would be, I have no more wishes for this camera.
That's another 2 years out probably, but that'll happen. There's no that way that won't happen. I mean, that would be amazing to have that in video, to have that, because that's an operation of software, and so
And
that
yeah,
and that really needs to be tweaked. But even now with the 8 Plus, that bokeh effect that you get on stills is amazing. I've
yeah,
taken some incredible shots, and I'm really thrilled with. I'll put them in this video, and just of like my brother-in-law's cats and things like that. It's like, wow, man, this is just
yeah,
in the right light. It's just
yeah,
absolutely incredible that I can get these kind of shots.
yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, exactly. Coming from the 6, it's a different perspective. People coming from the 7, it's still a good upgrade. You can
yeah,
technically do more with it. You can do 240 FPS slow mo in
hmm
1080.
yeah,
That's great. It looks awesome.
yeah.
I think Marquez, he compared it with a $30,000 Red camera,
MKB
and the
HD. Yeah,
difference,
yeah,
the difference pretty much only depends on what screen you're looking at.
yeah,
On my Retina MacBook Pro, it looked almost the same.
yeah,
Like, just because I know it costs 30,000, maybe that's why it looks a little bit better.
yeah.
But it's really that close. It's not 30,000 times better
No, no, not by
than
any
this.
stretch. No,
Like, not even half.
no, not
Not
even.
even 50%. So that's crazy. And I think Apple is teaching the photo industry what superior computational power can help
Hmm.
with photos.
Hmm.
Image processing inside already, inside the camera, pretty much, like, or coming to the camera, being available to the camera. Sony has gotten the ball, and they have really speedy cameras.
Hmm.
I think, I mean, Canon doesn't even make a 4K DSLR.
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't
No
even make
idea.
one. I mean, they're gonna come out with one, and it's gonna be great,
Yeah,
but they don't even make one. Not even now. I mean, they kept doing the 70D, the 77D, and then the 80D. It's all 1080p.
yeah. And
So that's kind of weird.
the new portrait lighting or the studio lighting that they do on there, it's still very much on the iPhone 8 Plus. It's still very much in beta, but it's
Yeah.
there.
But
It's there.
it's definitely there. Like,
Yeah.
on the right lighting, if you get a good shot, it's definitely there. You can see what they're trying to make. And hey, it's just something extra. Like, don't Apple betas are sometimes better than the full products from some developers.
Yeah.
This is not the case,
Right.
but you can see what they're trying to do, and you can work with it. And it's just something extra. And I love getting something extra. It would have been just great if they didn't implement it, and it's just like a little goodie. Here you go. Look at what we're doing here.
I agree, and it's the
Perfect.
future, and they've already. I think the what's that called? Where the port we have the bokeh in the background, the portrait lighting, whatever. That's now officially, I think, out of beta.
Yeah.
I think, and that works perfectly now. And that took what,
Yeah, it's good.
a year to perfect.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
studio lighting, I mean, that's and like we just mentioned, they have the horsepower in the 8 Plus to do everything that they need to do and then some. So it's
Yeah.
going to improve greatly. And plus, when developers start using that in third-party apps and great and stuff, so I don't know, I'm really looking forward to what they can do on that.
What I'm gonna research now is maybe a fisheye wide angle lens for the iPhone, like a mount, or like these like kind of
We're doing some
stuff
macro
they put.
shots.
Yeah.
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 That I mean, it's a better buy than a DSLR for me, because
Yeah.
I know a little bit, but I'm not a professional like you. Like, I just
Yeah.
do like autofocus, movie, and there you
Uh,
go.
I
It's
always,
overkill for me.
every time I do a wedding, I always think, boy, I should show up to a wedding sometime and put down my backpack with all my camera gear, take out my iPhone, don't say a word, and then just start shooting with the iPhone and see how long it takes for her to say, "What are you doing?"
What are
So
you doing?
it's better than my camera, so why not? So,
No, man, you have to go like
yeah, yeah,
this. You
yeah.
turn
Yeah.
something, look at it, look down, press a button, and
It's so close.
it's the whole experience. There, I had a very cynical thought in my head,
Mhm.
because I mean, I was like bummed that it wasn't like a mixture between this and the iPhone 10, that wasn't the iPhone 10,
Mhm.
just like the
I agree.
notch,
I agree.
like basically that the iPhone 10 looks like the S8, or something like that. More like classic, like uniform, symmetric look. I like symmetry. I like this is symmetric. And
Right.
somebody wanted to like tell me that the iPhone 10 in its bizarrety is symmetric. I'm like, no, no, it's not symmetric.
If they would have replaced, if they would have put the notch um, down below on that, and not even the notch, if they would have even kept just that small chin just above that where Touch ID is, just that, and then just kept the rest of the screen all the way to the top and all the way to the sides, and had still maintained a little bit of a chin down below, that would have been
Mm,
fine.
yeah.
That would have been fine because you maintain Touch ID. I mean, and Face ID as a backup. It's just a bad design choice. I'm
And the
not a really
cynic
big
in
fan of that.
me, I had this thought, this really cynical thought, is
Hmm.
like Apple's hardware isn't shitty enough yet to switch to Android,
It's close.
and the Android software isn't good enough yet to
That's
switch to
true.
their hardware.
That's true.
That's just the thing it
That's
is.
what keeps
Like,
me away from it. It's the Apple
yeah,
ecosystem. It's those golden handcuffs that keeps you there because iMessage, of course, is the main thing. But you hear all these other people with with viruses or laggy software and stuff, but it's like I want that hardware so bad. That S8, I want that in the worst way hardware wise.
and we're gonna get it. I mean, now I'm that guy, right? I hate
Yeah.
being that guy,
Hmm.
but I read something about the iPhone 10 2 or Dos Equis or whatever they're
Yeah.
gonna call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna have like three sizes. They're gonna have this
Yeah.
that size. They're gonna have one step bigger and something like above 6 inches. I don't know what the notch situation is gonna be, but it's gonna be gone at some point, and then it's gonna just be glorious.
As
And then we're
long
gonna
as
be
you
like,
don't have to
Apple is
pull
back.
from the top, that pulling from the top
Yeah,
for
that has to go.
pulling from the top for
That is weird.
notifications is one thing. Pulling down from the top, that's one thing because you're not, but an all day feature with your calculator and your camera and your flashlight
Yeah,
and all these other
yeah.
things
Alarm clock. Yeah.
pulling down from the top all day. Are you kidding me?
Mm,
That's such
mm.
a bad design choice. That was, oh man, that
And
kind of
there's a
thing.
lot. Yeah, I don't know.
That yeah, that worries me. I mean, it doesn't worry me. Whatever, it's Apple and you're going to keep on using it. But this might be my only phone for the next conceivably easily 2 years.
Yeah,
Easily 2 years.
yeah.
Definitely 1 year. Easily 2 years. Maybe three.
It really just depends on Apple
Yeah.
because I know what I bought. I know I bought a huge upgrade for myself, and even if
Yeah.
it's not an upgrade, it's not worse. If I had a 7 before, it's
Yeah.
not a worse phone. It just seems better to me
Hmm.
since I come from a 2014 phone
Yeah.
that hasn't aged well like an old, beautiful old Leica camera.
Yeah. I still
Like I
have
was promised.
I still have a 4 or 4S, and
That was a good call. I love it.
it's a beautiful camera. I mean, even if they would have with this iPhone 8 design wise, forget the internals for a moment, just design wise, if they would have returned to that, like basically a big iPhone 4 and taken
Mm,
away some of the bezel or whatever,
mm,
that would have been great. Like, hey, 10
mm.
years, this is, Steve introduced the Retina, the screen on the iPhone 4 or 4S, and here we are, returned to it with a nice glass back and the rails on the side. Man, that would have been really, really nice because
Yeah,
everybody loves that design. Everybody
yeah,
across the board, nobody disagrees with that. It's just
yeah.
such a classic design. But I don't know. I think you got anything else you wanted to discuss?
Not right now, but
All right.
in a future show. I mean, this is going to be the topic for the next months until the iPhone 10 comes out.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's going to be experiences of people with Face ID. There's going to be some weird situations, definitely, of all the journalists reporting what they're doing, what happened to them with Face ID.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, this is going to be following us. Apart from like other news, we're going to get how macOS Sierra is developing. I This is my second day with Sierra. Hi Sierra. I'm gonna check it out right now after the show. But yeah,
Hmm.
this the new iPhones are definitely gonna follow us. I might do like a full review for the channel.
Hmm.
Just touch on the things, but I think we hit on everything
Yeah, I believe
pretty much.
so. And as a side note, like I said, I've had the High Sierra on this laptop that I'm using here since the third version of the beta, the public beta, and it's worked flawlessly.
Yeah.
I haven't had one glitch, nothing, anything at all. Anyway, all right, man. Well, good talking to you.
Yeah,
And
likewise. That was cool.
we'll catch up again next week.
We surely will.
All right, brother. Take care.
See ya.